My theory is that every single woman can wear a pixie cut. It's just that they like to say, oh, I could never. I mean, that's what I used to say. I would see someone with it and I'd be like, you look so cool. I could never. And I'd be like, yes, you can.
Zoe Deutch, it's lovely to see you. I always love talking to you. I love running into you. I feel like I've known you forever, but not really, but definitely since you were like a late teenager, it feels like. And the last time we were on was The Politician and Zombieland, and we were talking about all kinds of things from Valley Girl accents to Cobb salad, and it's my favorite Zoe line, you don't need 5 animals in one meal. Which is, I never thought about a Cobb salad that way.
Wait till you hear my hot takes now that I'm 30.
Now that you're 30, I was like, oh, that's so
boy,
good.
oh boy, get ready.
Yeah, but I just was like, when I went back and listened to the interview, I was like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. And that's so perfect. That's so perfect, Zoe. But anyway, we are here to talk about Richard Linklater's new film, Nouvelle Vague. And I think I said it right?
Yeah.
I did. Oh,
Perfect.
Beautiful. Okay. So this is about the making of Breathless.
Yes.
Now, Breathless is a film that is seminal with the French New Wave. And I saw it in Art House Theater in Colorado. And as a college student, oh my God, what is this? It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then they did a remake of it with Richard Gere many, many, many years later. But if you love film, you love this movie. It is just a delight to watch from beginning to end. And of course, you play Jean Seberg.
Jean Seberg vient d'arriver. Elle sort de sa voiture accompagnée. Madame Seberg. Madame Seberg, qu'attendez-vous de Paris? Vous installez à Paris? Jean, qu'attendez-vous de Paris?
L'argent, les voitures de sport, les diamants. Non, plus sérieusement, une vie calme, créative, avec mon mari et mes amis. Merci.
Et votre prochain film, quel sera votre prochain film?
Jean Seberg was on every single mood board. I think of like every photographer's mood board, every fashion's mood board. And what I came to realize is that she was a regular gal from Iowa. Mm-hmm. So my first question to you is like, what spoke to you about Jean? And I know that you and Richard had worked together earlier, and talk me through a little bit of that.
Yeah. The beginning of my journey with it started, I made a film with Richard Linklater 11 years ago called Everybody Wants Some. And I was so sure that I was going to be cut out of Everybody Wants Some. One, because I was 19 and insecure and like, how did I get here and all the things that you feel. I did, at least. I was just really hard on myself and really upset. And he came up to me and he said, you know, I'm making a movie about the making of Breathless and I think you should play Jean Seberg. And I remember being like, oh my God, so maybe he's not going to cut me out of Everybody Wants Some. And then about 2 years before we started filming, I found a really cool, she was a professor at Stanford, a French tutor. And we started working together on the French, and then on more of like a conversational level. And then finally, like 6 months before when it was really happening, then I did all the other stuff and all the other research.
So you preemptively started taking French in case you had a pretty good chance that this movie was going to happen. So like 50-50 chance, and you were like, I'm going to learn some French?
I don't think it was 50-50. I feel like it was more just like maybe I should get ready to be lucky. You know,
I love that, but that's so great. It's like that cheesy saying that I say all the time, which is luck is when opportunity meets preparation, and you were prepared. And that, because that was one of my questions I was going to ask you. Are you secretly learning and speaking French in the Valley and doing that in Lax?
No,
like, what's happening?
No, I took Spanish, like you should if you grew up in LA. I like the idea of being ready to be lucky. I mean, up until I cut my hair off, which was like a week before I left for Paris, it was still.
Right. Well, you never know. I mean, that's the thing about Hollywood. It's not for the weak of heart. And speaking of the weak of heart, what was it like? You have this beautiful, thick, brown hair, and now I kind of can't unsee you. When you walked in, I was like, oh, wait, that is Zoe. But I just so see you in that pixie cut. It's like that's how you're living in my mind, in my memory. But how was that to just cut off all your hair and kind of live in that zone.
Have you ever had a pixie cut?
No.
I guess because it was for work, I had zero attachment to it. My hairstylist was like, "Do you remember? Am I remembering this wrong? Like, I don't remember being anxious or really having any feeling other than just like, oh, we're doing this." And she was like, "Yeah, it was kind of weird." She was like, "I was expecting there to be some sort of, and there never was." And I do think it was because it was for work. There's this thing that happens when you're doing something for your job. It's like a different part of my brain. I mean, I'm really like not trying to be humble. I'm pretty bad at everything unless it is for a job. You could try to teach me how to drive stick shift for 10 years and I'd be like, I don't, and then, you know, on set one day, they say, you out of the blue, you need to drive this ice cream truck that's into a stunt with the car and it's stick shift. And I'm like, all right. And I can learn it in 10 minutes. It's like, if it's for the switch in my brain of like my motivation, the level of care and interest is like, it's just different. And so I think I'm applying that also. I know it's just hair, but I kind of feel like I would have freaked out if it was for my everyday life and it was just a decision I was making. But I didn't. I was like, all right, take it off.
Yeah.
Whatever, who cares?
And what's great about the hair is it
grows back.
It grows back, and you just can wear a pixie cut. I could never wear a pixie cut.
That
which
is
I have
what every woman says to me. Sorry to
Yes.
point, but that is what and
Yes.
that's what I
but
would
you
say.
can. There are certain faces. Mia Farrow could wear a pixie cut. You can wear a pixie cut.
My theory is that every single woman can wear a pixie cut. It's just that they like to say, oh, I could never. I mean, that's what I used to say. I would see someone with it and I'd be like, you look so cool. I could never. It's just a strange, like it's an impulse reaction we all have to that haircut. And it was so that was the first thing everyone would say. And I'd be like, yes, you can.
And the irony is that Jean Seberg herself only had a pixie cut because she had just finished doing Joan of Arc.
Yes.
And had to have short hair. So
Well,
it
a
wasn't
couple
even
years prior, yeah. She had done Saint Joan and then she did Bonjour Tristesse. But yes, it was like all iconic things. The intention was not to be iconic. It was an accident. And it was because she had awkward grow out from shaving her head.
The layering of this character is so interesting because not only are you Zoe American, but Jean was American, like learning French. So you have to act in French like you're learning French. So you have to have it with a kind of French accent, kind of not a French accent. And you're
kind of also a little bit of an Iowa, because she's from Iowa, and she has a little, and also like a little bit of a Mid-Atlantic thing, because Otto Preminger had put her in this like crash course of, he was so harsh on her and so mean to her, and the critics were so mean after St. Joan that before Bonjour Tristesse, she went to like meet with the best movement coach, the best acting coach, the best dialect, and so she had put on and learned this slightly affected Mid-Atlantic thing that was going on then, obviously, and then with the Iowa, and then so she does have a very famous way that she speaks French in France. Americans are less, they don't hear it as much. Yeah. But in France, that's a very famous way that she speaks it. So that was intimidating.
And how was it working with Richard? Like, how was it working, as not as a 19-year-old, but as someone that had been in the business now for 10 years and had earned your, reps, let's say. How was that experience for you?
He's such a unique and creative and fun person to be around. And I just felt very grateful to be witness to that. This is a movie about the movies that inspired him to be a filmmaker. And there's, this memory I have in my mind where it was the Cahiers du Cinema scene. And it was in between shots. And Rick, he was misty-eyed. I don't think I've ever seen him like that. And I later asked him, did I misinterpret this? Did I create it? And he was like, no, I realized that he kind of made this movie to meet his heroes, to bring these people back to life, to say thank you and I respect you and I appreciate everything that you gave me. And it was really powerful. It was like a little kid getting to meet his heroes. So I say all that because it felt really meaningful to be a part of something like that for somebody I really respect.
Oh, I loved seeing the Rossellini and the Agnes Varda. And
Yeah.
so, I had the same like,
Yeah, yeah,
'cause we're
yeah.
so obviously not a part of that world, but he really drops you in
Yeah, you're
1959 Paris, and you feel like you're a fly on the wall.
and like nostalgic for a time
Yeah.
you didn't
Yeah.
exist in.
And that we exactly, as perfectly said. And one of the things I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about, because I wish I had this in my everyday life, like before a meeting, if we rehearsed it and rehearsed it and rehearsed it and rehearsed it, and then we went into the meeting and it was like, oh, well, we know this, like, whatever, this is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
because we've rehearsed it for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice? But he's someone that really believes in rehearsal. Like
Yeah.
you are in it and you are doing it again and again and again and again. So by the time the cameras are rolling, it's just who you are. Can you talk a little bit as an actress what that process was like for you, and especially in getting to Jean?
Yeah. Well, I think and he talks about this a lot, but Rick started as an athlete. A lot of his approach to filmmaking is what he learned as an athlete, both as like just that kind of discipline, but also being a teammate. And one of the parts of that is he likes to say, would you ever tell, like, would your coach ever tell, you to not train, not show up for practice? Like, why don't you just come on game day and see how it goes? And if you practice too much, if you come to practice too much, you might be tired and it might be stale. Like you might not play as well. No coach would ever say that. That's not that's insane. And he uses that as an example of like not understanding the approach of rehearsing too much. You lose the spark and you lose the spontaneity, and it's a little. He doesn't really get that. And I think from my perspective as an actor, so much of my job is to assess and learn however the captain of the ship is steering, what their process is. I don't dictate that. That's not my job. Do I have a preference? Yes. I love rehearsal. I love to know what's going on. I prefer a million takes. I prefer lots of time to get on the same page and to try everything. But also, if that's not the director's process, it's my job to be able to do that too. Rick does as much rehearsal time as he has for filming. So we had the same amount of days for rehearsal that we had for shooting. And I guess that's a lot more rare than you would think it is. And it's interesting that a lot of his films feel so loose, and that the term hangout film is always used for his movies. And there's really no improv. There's of course like spontaneity in scenes and in moments, and that's just the nature of filmmaking. But things are figured out before you're on set, which is great. Getting to go rehearse on set and in the space and know what's ahead, that makes such a big difference, I think.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It feels just like, I get that. I'd never heard that. I'd never heard him talk about that as an athlete, as an athletic reference, but it makes a ton of sense.
Right.
Okay. So when were you first introduced to Jean Seberg as just Zoe?
When Rick said, I think you should play Jean Seberg. And I remember looking at photos and going, is he me? I mean, I didn't think that we looked alike or even really had that much of a similar essence. So I think I was just like, okay, I whatever he says, I trust, but I would be really lying to you if I said I saw it or understood.
What struck you most about her life?
It's hard not to think about the ending and how tragic and unfair things were for her, like so many other great actresses of that time. Tragic and unfair seemed to be a consistent description. And this wasn't obvious to me at the beginning of the process of making the movie, but I became and am really grateful for the opportunity to show a different part of her life and a different side of her. And at Telluride, someone who knew her really well came up to me sobbing, saying, it was like I got to see her sense of humor and her joy and her youth and this other color of her life that I knew and loved And I got to be reminded of that instead of what came later. And similar, you know, people have said that about Godard, that his reputation is very complicated, and complicated's a really nice way of saying it.
Oh,
Bonjour.
vous êtes venu en taxi?
Oui. Je venais vous rendre visite, but you're done.
Et demain,
Bonjour.
vous travaillez?
Oui.
Alors, pas de taxi.
Pourquoi? Vous allez m'envoyer au chauffeur.
Il n'y a pas de chauffeur. Venez à pied, ce sera mieux pour Patricia.
Et elle fait quoi, Patricia?
Patricia.
Et elle fait quoi, Patricia? À part être obligée de marcher.
C'est bien de ne pas toujours être une sainte nitouche. Je pense que ça vous plaira.
Je ne suis pas une touche. D'ailleurs, je pourrais très bien vous laisser tomber, vous et votre film.
Vous voyez? Vous commencez à comprendre. À demain et à pied. Patricia.
Okay, there we go.
Patricia.
Getting to see him before he became who he became, and the spark and the energy and the inspiration and the genius.
The brilliance of the arrogance and then the insecurity of like, oh, I just loved it. For you playing her, what was the most challenging part? Because like we don't really know that much about her. It's not like you can go back and like, I mean, there's her movies, but it's not an imitation.
Totally.
You know?
There wasn't that much
Right.
actually of that time to watch. There was one great, like in terms of just actual, real, helpful footage. There's one interview on YouTube of her giving a tour of her apartment where she speaks both in English and French, and that was very, very useful. I transcribed it and I kind of memorized it almost like a monologue, and I just would listen to it. I listened to it for months, but then every morning before I went to, that was the most useful piece of footage. But there were also kind of three different characters for me that I was working on. There was Jean, there was Patricia, and then there was Jean playing Patricia. So Patricia's the character in Breathless. And there were oftentimes all three of them in one scene. And of course, the language barrier of it all. I'm making a movie in a language that with an entirely, you know, every single person in this movie was French other than Rick and I.
I do think that it is something about this film and about this era,
Yeah.
obviously, French New Wave and her in particular, and also dying at 40. There's a certain kind of idolization that
Yes.
happens. We never see these people
Get old. People
but
hate seeing women
yes,
age. It's
right.
a
She's not
real-
age, so we live through her
Crazy.
in this film. And what is interesting, as I was reading about it, is that basically the famous, you know, the beautiful dress, the T-shirt that I think that people have sold recently, and oh my God, the T-shirt, the Herald Tribune T-shirt, it was all hers because there was no budget, right? It was all just pulled from her closet or trunks.
Yeah, because Jean had sort of begun this movie star life. You know, she had 2 movies out, and
She was 21,
she
right? I
was
mean,
becoming
God,
sort of
so
it
young.
was starting. So the Chanel she wears in our film, she wears this amazing, beautiful custom Chanel dress. But that was for Jean, not for Patricia. So Patricia,
Right.
all the costumes we recreated from Breathless, those were all her. It was all her stuff, as far as we know, and you know things that were from Prisonique, which was like a not very nice store. So she just had very good taste. One of my favorite outfits is this. She's wearing like a white blouse and white pants and a bangle. And when Belmondo comes to her house to be like, "Are we making this movie?" That was a photo that I found of hers in a book, and I just thought it looked effortless and cool. And so we tried to weave in other things that we'd seen of hers in our film.
Oh yeah, it's great. And he is amazing, by the way. The Aubrey,
Yes.
he's incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, first of all, he looks exactly like Belmondo.
Isn't
and
that
he's
crazy?
It's just like, wait, what?
Vous pourriez peut-être noter quelques-uns de vos beaux sentiments?
Jean. C'est l'histoire d'un garçon et d'une fille qui emploient les mêmes mots, mais avec des sens différents. Ce qui est difficile et important, c'est d'avancer en terre inconnue, d'être conscient du danger, de prendre des risques, d'avoir peur. Soit il mourra, soit il tuera la fille.
On peut décider ça maintenant?
On ne peut pas.
On pourrait, mais vous ne voulez pas.
Les déceptions sont temporaires, Le film, lui, est éternel.
Bon, peu importe la fin, l'essentiel c'est de s'amuser.
And Godard, I'm going to mispronounce his name. I met him in Telluride. He
Guillaume
was great.
Marbec?
Yes, Guillaume. We didn't talk a lot because I don't speak French.
You know, I was so intimidated by the French element of this film that when he introduced himself and with his accent and he said his name is Guillaume, I said, Guillaume, would it be okay if I called you Gigi? I can't have learned one more French word. And he was like, sure. And it caught on. And this was his first film, amazingly,
Yes.
and he's amazing in the film, but it almost became his stage name. Everyone on set started calling him Gigi, and everyone in America, like, that he's met thinks his name is Gigi. So now it's like his new life as this Hollywood actor
great.
is Gigi. Everyone at Netflix. And I forgot that it was me. Where were we? Maybe in Telluride, and someone was like, Gigi, like, it's so nice to meet you. And I was like, where did Gigi come from? And he was like, you. And I was like, oh yeah, because I was
Yeah.
anyway. So, but Guillaume, yeah, it was like he was born to play this.
Yeah, there's all the cast. Rick did an amazing job casting everybody, and it's just, and the movie is. I mean, you guys just got nominated for Gotham for Best International, and you have been what feels like on a global tour, every festival getting honored, and it's like you are so having a moment.
Thanks.
And deservedly so, and it's really exciting. And there's something else really exciting happening in your life other than movies, which is that flash of a ring that keeps blinding me. So congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. That's a big deal. And another actor, right?
Yes.
And are you insane? But yes, I guess so.
Well, yes, I am insane. No, we've been together for almost 6 years now. So if I'm insane, I know what I'm getting myself in. You know,
Okay.
I know what I'm doing. I think. No, it's very exciting. It's been a really fun new chapter.
I think everyone loves a little joy. It's like, we need a little joy in our lives always. And that's a really fun, I think I saw that post. I was like, I got a little hit off of it as well as everybody else. So thank you for sharing that.
No, we're
sharing
so
that
excited,
with the
really.
world and whatnot. And as I've been watching you, I was thinking about because I remember when we talked earlier, and you'll always be the girl that brings a 12-pack of LaCroix to a girls' dinner. So just know whatever happens in the next 30 years, I will always hold you dear in my heart for that. And I think that was in COVID or out of COVID. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But thinking
And
about...
you'll always be the person. You must be so annoyed. Every time I see you in an event, I like grab you. I'm like, Krista, how are you? Like, I'm like so excited to have, to see you and to feel your warmth and like good vibes.
Oh, I love that. I'll take it.
You've
I'll
always
take
been
it.
that for me. Even if it's a quick, I need your good
Yeah.
vibes.
I love it. I'm here for that. But one of the things I love about you is obviously you're amazing on film, but you as a human are so honest and so self-reflective about you. And that's not always the case. When you think back about that teenager, what would you want to say, or what are your thoughts when you look back like 15 years ago with that 13, 14, 15-year-old?
I spent most of my life attaching myself to this like image of being a really anxious person, and it kind of became my identity. And I think I woke up around, I guess it must have been 27 or 27, and I was so miserable with myself, and I didn't really even know where to begin. I just like everything that had worked for me for however many years that I could even remember stopped working for me. It was the Saturn return of it all. And again, it's all true. I'm not saying anything revelatory, and I would roll my eyes at watching interviews of people speak the way that I am right now, because it felt so self-important. It felt so self-righteous, or like, just wait, But I'm just saying from my experience, I was so lost, and I just sort of had to peel back the layers of who I actually was, and disassemble all these other patterns and habits and things that I had taken from other people, even if it's my mom, my dad, people I've worked with, ex-partners, whatever, friends, whatever it is. Like I had all these, it's like barnacles, all these things attached to myself that I thought were mine that weren't. Like, how do you peel all those things off and then figure out who you are? And I did that for about a year. I didn't work for a full year. And part of that whole time, I went to this amazing place that a lot of people talk about called Hoffman Institute. And it changed my life. And it wasn't like a cure-all, but it was the beginning of a process of figuring out and learning new tools for myself. And it was like a marker of time in the way that a bat mitzvah or a wedding or whatever it is that, you know, we have these markers of time. It felt like a marker of time for me of like there was before then and there was after then. And again, it's what everyone says, you know, the closer you get to yourself and the better relationship to yourself you have, and the more you understand who you are, the better life gets. I really don't think I had any relationship to myself, which is kind of crazy given I'm an actor, but I just sort of had relationships with all these other characters and things and was like screaming into a void. And that was super fun. And it really worked for me. I'm not saying I regret that or, you know, anything other than it stopped working for me.
Right. It just wasn't something you could take on. I mean, it's true. It's the time we waste with that anxiety. It's really energy. You know,
Yes.
It's like devoting all that energy. You're exhausted.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I'm also just an example of that is like when you're making an independent movie like Nouvelle Vague, right? We have no time. You have no time. You're just running, doing this. And if you have no control over time at all, but you do have you have a little bit you've your time. You know, I've noticed it's like, wow, this isn't as stressful as it could be because I'm not spending all of my time that I'm not working freaking out. I have more time to actually focus on the work. You know, it was like, oh, okay. So this is good. This is better, I think. Not to say I'm like it's not like I like threw my anxiety out the window and I don't have it anymore. I just sort of am able to like look at it for what it is and not attach myself to it as much.
Yeah, manage it. I love that.
Yeah.
That's
You don't get to just be like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's gone.
All right. Well,
It
I
is-
am going to bum rush you with something you said back in 2019 that I really like. Okay. So it's about acting, and it's
Okay.
a little bit about you, and it's part of this was dying to come through 6 years ago.
My job as an actor is to see other walks of life and other types of humans and see other things other than a movie studio and a makeup trailer and my fancy shoes. Not to say I'm not grateful for all the things that I have, because I am, but if you get stuck in that, you start to lose the humanity of it all, which is what it is to begin with. Trying to understand what it's like to be another human being.
Love that.
You know what someone said to me that I thought was so interesting? Do you like the way that you sound when you speak?
Never. No, I can't even listen to myself on a podcast.
But
so-
you know what
Yeah.
what someone said that I thought was kind of cool, helped me not want to die so much listening to that, is that when you listen to it back, you're not feeling the vibration. So it sounds so different because you're not feeling your voice. You're just hearing your voice. And I thought that was kind of powerful. And then the other craziest thing is the only other person is your child is the only other person that's felt the vibration of your voice because they were in you. Isn't that
Wow.
interesting? I loved that. But I hate the way that I fucking hate the way I sound. So brutal. That was 6 years ago? So, yeah.
2019. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. The fancy shoes, but you got to be real. You got to be who you are and
Yeah.
live in the world.
Yeah.
All right, so this is kind of I'm going to go through my favorite questions that I ask everybody
Yes.
on the show. And the first one is a reflective question, and it's about birth order. And I know
yes.
this is going to be a good one.
I love this question.
How do you think your birth order has shaped who you are in the world?
I identify so strongly as a younger sibling. I feel so connected to my sister. I feel I can't describe how important she is to me. My sister is one of those people who's really good at everything.
Oldest daughter.
And she, I mean, really good at everything. And growing up, you know, I was Maddie's sister. That's how I was always introduced, you know, at anywhere we would go. I was like, oh, are you Maddie's sister? You know, it was not. I definitely think I developed a little bit of like a kid complex about that. And I think I was a very loud child to the point where my mom went to go get my hearing checked because she thought that maybe there was a problem. And they were like, no, she has supersonic hearing. She not only has good hearing, she has some of the best hearing we've ever seen. So they were like, she doesn't have that problem. She has a different problem, ma'am. An attention problem. And I think that definitely contributed, is that I just, you know, she was like this incredible singer and musician and also an athlete.
It's interesting that like you wanting your space in that family because you felt it was taken up by Maddie.
Yeah.
Hi, Maddie, by the way. Hope you're listening. That you kind of became an actor in a way, maybe.
I'm not kidding you. She was good at everything, and the only thing she didn't do was act. I think I was always going to do it, but I do think had she have done it, I don't know if I would have pursued it. But you know what? Me and my sister, I think it was 5 years ago, our relationship, it wasn't like it was suffering. There was just sort of there was some tension, and we decided to go to therapy together, sister therapy, which I remember our parents were like, what? You guys get along so great. Like, why do you need to go to therapy? You know? And it was so awesome. It was like one of the coolest, best things I've ever done in my life, because it gave us both a space to acknowledge that we both had the same mom, the same dad. We were in the same room, but we had totally different experiences of things. And instead of like years of either passive aggressive or straight up aggressive ways of kind of invalidating each other's experience, we gave each other real space to be like, okay, you had your experience, I had my experience, and they're both true. We both were entering this new phase of our lives with our partners, and we obviously were no longer living together. And when you grow up, you're not forced to have a relationship. It's a choice. And we were like, I choose to nurture this relationship, and it's on us now. No one else is going, you have to get along.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? No, you can't. No one can do that anymore. So my relationship with my sister is one of the things that I'm most proud of in my life, because it's a very deep one. But I spent most of my life really jealous of her. And I still am very jealous of her. I think she's the smartest, coolest person in the room.
So fascinating. Okay, my next question. Do you have any irrational fears?
Yeah, like a ton. I'm forgetting what they're called. When you go into a hotel and there's the
revolving door. I
hate. Also have an irrational fear of scallops. No, thank you. Mm-hmm. I have an irrational fear I'm going to get stuck in an escalator. You know, when you.
Like your pant leg or
gosh. What about when in the dishes, the garbage disposal, every time I use it, I think every time I'm like, I'm putting my hand in there, and I'm like, don't put your hand. I really think that I can't control my hand. Like, I'm going to chop my hand off with the garbage disposal.
I feel you on that one.
My number one irrational fear, though, by far and away, is that every time, I mean, if I showed you my phone, it would be mostly pictures of the oven or my like flat iron or candles that I didn't even put on. Every time I leave the house, I'm convinced I have turned everything on. There's 1,000 candles. I've turned on the oven. I mean, the amount of times I've gone to something and turned back around. Mm-hmm. Remember, I told you, I identified as an extremely anxious person.
The last one of these favorite questions are core memories. Is there any memory that you kind of go back to or you think of more often than not? Like a defining moment in your life or in your career or in your young adulthood or childhood?
That's a great question. The older I get, the luckier I am to get older, the more gratitude I have for my mom and everything that she did, and insane sacrifice of being a mother, like the sacrifices of what it takes to be a mother, and how much she showed up for me with such little reward. My grandma, my mom's mom, she had a stroke. My mom called me, and I got on a plane immediately, and I met my mom in Montana, and I walked into the hospital room, and I held my mom's hand, and I held my grandma's hand, and in a couple hours, my grandma passed away, and we were all three of us holding hands, and it was extremely meaningful and powerful to be, to witness that kind of transition, but more than anything, and because I was very close with my grandma and very connected to her, but more than anything, it felt like it was like a small way that I really felt like I showed up for my mom in a way that she's done for me every day of my life. Like I knew she really needed me, and I left work. I didn't hesitate. I went and I did that for her. And I remember it as just being like, this is the kind of human being that I want to be. This is the kind of family member I want to be. This is the kind of like, because she really did need me there. It felt so good to be there for her in a way that I don't think that I ever have. So that's a memory that I hold very, very near and dear.
That's a good one. Mother, child, it all. It's like the generational. It's kind of like we're on theme a little bit.
Yeah.
With what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of that, happy almost birthday.
Thank you.
We are coming around the corner.
Thank you.
And this episode releases on the 14th.
And also Jean's birthday is November 13th.
Well, thank you, Zoe. It's so good to see you. I look forward to the next time we can talk and solve some more problems of the world. But congratulations on Nouvelle Vague. You're amazing. Jean Seberg, you're bringing her back to life, which is so great. And I love that you've had those experiences from people that actually knew her. And I can't wait for people to see this movie. It's just a treat.
I'm so happy to be here to talk to you. I adore you, you know that. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity to chat.
All right. Skip intro.
Do I get to steal this mug?
Yeah, you can.
Hell
you can
yeah.
have it. It's yours. But you got to drink the water in it.
Okay, chug it. All right, I'll do what I have to.